Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to learn how we can mix our politeness levels together to create even more natural sounding Korean. The first thing you should keep in mind is that everything you say can affect the overall feel of your Korean. And native Korean speakers are not focused on the exact grammar forms or words that you're using, rather on how the way you're speaking makes them feel. So because of this, there are many situations where it's acceptable to use more or less polite speech than you might think. While this series covers many of the rules of politeness levels, keep in mind that the most important thing is how you sound and how the listener feels. And now that we've already covered all of the basics of politeness levels, we can discuss using them together in more detail. So in this lesson, we're going to be focusing on what's called 반존대. Now the word 반존대 is a combination of the word 반, half, and 존대, meaning respect. So it's like a combination of 반말 and 존댓말. In some cases, you simply may want to speak more friendly and less polite, regardless of whether you're close friends or whether someone's older than you. In this case, speaking politely might feel unfriendly or too polite to you. However, not speaking politely means using casual speech, which would be inappropriate if you're not close. So 반존대 is a vague area between speaking politely and speaking casually. Now, I should give you a disclaimer about 반존대 before we get started. Although you may want to speak more friendly with someone, you might want to feel like, I want to speak casually with you, it might not always be a good idea. Even though casual speech gives your speech a feel of, let's be a bit more friendly, while it might feel more friendly to the speaker, it could also feel uncomfortable to the listener. With that said, when both the speaker and listener feel comfortable, 반존대 can and is often used. But using it requires a strong understanding of how politeness levels feel, not just their rules. First, note that 반존대 is typically not used in any formal settings, such as the workplace or anywhere similar. And I should add, use it at your own risk. So when can you use 반존대? Or in simpler words, when can you just start speaking casually? Well, it's used when you want to create a closer relationship with someone else. Using 반존대 can be a quick way of speaking more casually, therefore speaking more friendly, towards someone who you normally would not be able to. But then when can you do that? Well, here are 3 common situations when doing this can actually be appropriate. First, dating couples. Second, at the marketplace. And third, when making jokes. We'll talk about each of these in detail. So first, let's talk about using 반존대 when dating. Some couples may prefer to mix in polite speech into their casual conversations. And adding polite speech has the effect of making that sentence sound more respectful, and thereby sound cute. Typically, this can be done by first saying one sentence using more polite speech, followed by a second sentence using casual speech. For example, 누나 괜찮아요? 나 진짜 걱정했는데. Are you okay? I was really worried. But since every couple is different, it's best to consider everyone's feelings when speaking. Many couples may prefer to speak completely casually or more politely with each other, but this is also an option. Now let's take a look at another situation that you might commonly see 반존대 used, and that is when you're at the marketplace. Again, casual speech can be used to sound friendly right away to someone else. And this would be someone who you would normally otherwise not be able to speak casually with. For example, when you're shopping at a marketplace, you might want to try bargaining the price of an item, or try asking for a larger serving. Or you may want to talk casually, like a friend, with an older worker while relaxing over some good food. In this situation, 반존대 could be acceptable. And when used in the marketplace, 반존대 is commonly only used in the beginning of an interaction, just to create a casual and friendly feeling right away. And this is because it's only being used to feel friendly. Once you're making a purchase or having a real conversation, it's best to switch back to polite speech. But those two aren't the only situations where you might find it appropriate to speak casually, or at least mix in some casual speech. Another one is when you're simply joking or acting playful with someone. Now, this will be someone who you feel a bit comfortable with. Again, note that this is not a rule and will depend on your relationship. Many people will still feel uncomfortable with any sort of casual speech. But when you're telling a story, joking, or just being playful, or even simply trying to sound more friendly, it's common to mix in some casual speech into otherwise polite speech. Here's an example of a sentence that does this. 그 영화 봤어요? 되게 재밌대. 오늘 일 끝나고 같이 보러 갈래요? Did you see that movie? They say it's really fun. Do you want to go see it together after work's over? Here, the sentence 되게 재밌대 uses casual speech. So we can assume in this moment the speaker is trying to speak more playfully to someone else to sound more friendly. I have a few more notes for this lesson, but first, let's take a look at this listening practice, which is a shop owner speaking to a younger kid at a marketplace. First, the shop owner says, 학생, hey, 이리 와봐. Come over here. 이거 오늘 들어왔어. This came in today. 엄청 싱싱해. It's really fresh. 이게 오늘 들어온 거예요? This came in today? 에이, 색깔이 별론데? Come on, the color isn't that good. 이건 날씨가 더워서 그래요. It's because the weather's hot. And now both speakers switch back to using polite speech, since they're having a conversation. And in this case, polite speech would be appropriate. A shop owner speaking to a customer, and a customer speaking to a stranger. 그럼 이거 살게요. Then I'll buy this. 싸게 주세요. Please give it to me cheap, so give me a discount.
학생, 이리 와봐. 이거 오늘 들어왔어. 엄청 싱싱해. 이게 오늘 들어온 거예요? 에이, 색깔이 별로인데? 이건 날씨가 더워서 그래요. 그럼 이거 살게요. 싸게 주세요.
I have a few notes for this lesson, but first, try to complete this quick quiz on your own. You can pause the video here and then resume it when you're ready for the answers. Here are the answers. The first one is true. 반존대 can be a quick way to speak casually to someone who you would otherwise not be able to. The next one is false. 반존대 is most often fine to use and will not sound impolite, as long as your intent is to sound friendly and not to be rude. This is false because it could still sound impolite, regardless of your intent. And the last one is also false. 반존대 should never be used toward anyone who's older than you, as it can sound rude. It can be used to people who are older. Just note how it might make the other person feel, and be careful when you're using it. Again, the most important thing to keep in mind when speaking is how your words affect how the other person feels, even if you're bending the rules. When in doubt, do not use 반존대. It's always better to be polite as appropriate instead of risking sounding rude by speaking too casually. Be aware of 반존대 and how it can feel, and use it at your own risk. Also, I should add, keep in mind that if someone else uses 반존대 to you inappropriately, they simply may want to be closer with you and aren't trying to sound rude. So in this lesson, we had an introduction to 반존대 as well as what it is and how to use it. And in the next lesson, we'll continue and learn even more about how you can mix your politeness levels together. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again in the next lesson. 그럼 다음에 또 봐!